Brought to you by WikiVidi Documentaries. Mr. Negative. Mr. Negative is a fictional comic book supervillain appearing in books published by Marvel Comics, usually as an enemy of Spider-Man, the Punisher and Cloak and Dagger. Publication history. Created by Dan Slott and Phil Jimenez. Mr. Negative first appeared in a cameo in the History, Swing Shift, of Free Comic Book Day, an issue set after the events of the Spider-Man, One More Day storyline. Mr. Negative's first full appearance came in The Amazing Spider-Man 46, the start of the Brand New Day storyline. Fictional character biography. Martin Li is an illegal Chinese immigrant from the Fujian province who attempted to travel to America to be with his wife. But his mode of transportation, the Golden Mountain, was a slave ship operated by the Snakehead Gang as a way to sell Fujian captives as overseas slaves in Kenya. During a storm, the ship's crew evacuated, leaving the captives alone to make a break for the New York shores. Li was the only survivor, and spent the following years building a large fortune and dedicating himself to helping those less fortunate. However, this story is later revealed to be somewhat false. Though only the Mr. Negative persona appears aware of it, it is revealed that Mr. Negative was actually one of the crew members of the Golden Mountain. When the ship nearly crashed onto the New York shores, he stole the identity of one of the deceased Fujian slaves who was heading to America. For the aforementioned reasons, this gang member was eventually captured by the Major Silverman and experimented on with a synthetic drug created by magic chemist Simon Marshall that could be more potent than heroin. He escaped with the help of two other experimental inmates and was soon transformed into two men: the kind-hearted Martin Li and the villainous Mr. Negative. The Mr. Negative side dedicated himself to becoming Chinatown's kingpin of crime, while the Martin Li side attempts to run the FAST center with humility. Martin Li operates a soup kitchen in Chinatown, the FAST project, where Peter Parker's Aunt May volunteers. Neither Peter nor May are aware of Li's dual identity as a Chinatown crime boss under the Mr. Negative name. Despite being a crime lord, Li is a seemingly kind and generous man. The FAST project has displayed healing powers for people of various illnesses, although the cause of this healing has yet to be revealed. During the first story of Brand New Day storyline, Mr. Negative first comes into conflict with Spider-Man when he makes a power play toward taking control of New York's criminal underworld by attempting to wipe out all existing members of the Carnelli and Major crime families, using a DNA-specific bioweapon called the Devil's Breath. In exchange for leaving the Major family's children alive, he takes a sample of Spider-Man's blood to use in a Devil's Breath formula. Mr. Negative later tries to use the Devil's Breath formula to kill Spider-Man during a fight with the Major, but Spider-Man is able to hold breath long enough to escape alive. Spider-Man then recruits the Black Cat to help steal the web-slinger's remaining blood from Mr. Negative and replace it with a vial of pig blood, so Mr. Negative is unaware of his loss. Martin Li endorses Bill Hollister for mayor of New York City, putting him against Randall Crown, adding him added to a list of opponents. It also causes him to become the target of a smear campaign by Dexter Bennett, editor of the DB and supporter of Crown. After Menace is revealed to be Hollister's daughter, and Hollister resigns as mayor, Li unsuccessfully runs in a special election, losing to J. Jonah Jameson. Mr. Negative later recruits Hammerhead and offers to put the man's brain in a new robotic adamantium skeleton after having been shot point-blank in the head by Underworld. Hammerhead agrees to that, and Mr. Negative has his surgeon Dr. Trammer perform the procedure. Mr. Negative eventually comes across Eddie Brock, giving a job at his soup kitchen. A touch of him causes Brock's cancerous cells to completely disappear. Also, the remains of the Venom symbiote fuse with Brock's white blood cells, causing Anti-Venom's existence. During a conflict with Matt Gargan, the Venom symbiote's host, after the FEAST Center is torn apart during the fight between the two, Lee discovers from a group of sweatshop workers that they were experimented on with drugs from Oscorp. Later, Mr. Negative and his inner demons encounter and battle Anti-Venom. In the aftermath, Brock watches Mr. Negative turn into Lee, becoming the first to be aware of his dual identity. During the 2008-2009 Dark Reign storyline, Mr. Negative refuses to submit to the Hood's rule of conquest of New York's criminal underworld. During a meeting with Hood's henchman White Dragon, Mr. Negative corrupts White Dragon and sends the man to attack Hood's headquarters. In retaliation, Hood decides to attack and kill him. Hammer seals Chinatown on Hood's behalf and an all-out brawl erupts around Lee's estate. Hood's gang gets the upper hand until Spider-Man arrives to rescue Martin. However, Spider-Man 2 is corrupted and sent into battle on Mr. Negative's behalf. Spider-Man attacks and pummels the members of Hood's gang who are attacking the villain's headquarters. And Mr. Negative then sends the web-slinger to kill Betty Brant, who is interviewing the real Martin Lee's widow and is coming close to the truth. The Hood himself then confronts Mr. Negative at his Chinatown headquarters and battles him. During the battle, Mr. Negative tries to corrupt Hood, but fails. Norman Osborn ends the blockade Hammer has on Chinatown when Hammerhead hands papers implicating Oscorp in the aforementioned drug tests on immigrants. An irate Hood decides to kill Mr. Negative anyway, but he escapes. A later conversation that Osborn has with his own darker Green Goblin side reveals that he now has an alliance with Mr. Negative similar to the one with Hood. However, Spot slips in and steals back the evidence of Oscorp tests, revealing being Mr. Negative's mole in the Hood's gang under the promise that he will be cured once they get their revenge on the Major. During the Gauntlet storyline, Mr. Negative corrupts May Parker when the woman walks in on him punishing an inner demon. However, May manages to break free from Mr. Negative's corruption when Peter went to May for moral support after the lizard devoured Billy Connors and essentially killed Kurt Connors. During the Shadowland storyline, Mr. Negative takes the advantage of the conflict against the Hand in a plot to set up a criminal establishment there, only for him and his inner demons to run afoul of Spider-Man and Shanghai. Mr. Negative later has an encounter with Jackpot and Boomerang. During the Origin of the Species storyline, Mr. Negative was among the supervillains assembled by Dr. Octopus to secure some items. During the Big Time storyline, Mr. Negative is targeted by both Anti-Venom and the New Wraith when they, along with Spider-Man, interrupt a heroin smuggling operation. Wraith uses visual recognition software, linked to every television broadcast in New York, to publicly out Mr. Negative as Martin Lee. When the police approach Mr. Negative and his men retreat, Lee is later seen locked in a room by Mr. Negative's men who wait for him to change back into their master. During the Spider Island storyline, Mr. Negative is told of a prophecy that he is destined to be killed by Dagger. During the Avengers vs. X-Men storyline, Mr. Negative and his henchmen invade a SHIELD facility as a way of taking an advantage of the war between the Avengers and the Phoenix Five, but Hawkeye and Spider-Woman defeat them while having a discussion about their relationship. It is later revealed that they were informed about Mr. Negative's plan by Madam Hydra, who wanted to get rid of the competition. During the original Sin storyline, Mr. Negative is seen meeting with the self-proclaimed Goblin King, who is now leading the Goblin Underground's remnants. When it came to them awaiting for real to help divide the criminal underground following the original Goblin King's defeat, their meeting is crashed by Black Cat and Electro, who demand their share of the plan. When Mr. Negative and Nurik refuse to listen to Black Cat, the woman reminds them that they were all outed by Spider-Man and will succeed in the goal of defeating Spider-Man. Following the Secret Wars storyline as part of the all-new, all-different Marvel event, Martin Lee has been arrested at some point. He was rescued by Cloak and Dagger, who have been corrupted by his touch and are using patches of the drug known as Shade to stimulate the effects of Mr. Negative's touch and remain loyal to him. After the two break Mr. Negative out of the prison ship where Lee was being kept, and restoring him to Mr. Negative, he leads an assault on Parker Industries' Japan branch. Peter Parker gets attacked by Dagger while Cloak teleports Mr. Negative behind Peter, where he manages to touch Peter. Although Peter is able to escape being corrupted by Mr. Negative thanks to Spider-Man's prior corruption, Cloak and Dagger manage to help Mr. Negative escape when Peter tracks the two to his Hong Kong headquarters. After Mr. Negative returns to Lee, he reveals in a video message that he is targeting a philanthropist named Shen Qingao, who was once the criminal that led the Snakehead Syndicate, which was in charge of the slave ship, where Lee became Mr. Negative. Through the video message, Lee accepts Mr. Negative's proposal. However, this plan fails when Peter does not slip Shen Qingao the drugged award that would have prompted the man to confess his own sins during a live broadcast, with Mr. Negative's impulsive attack giving Spider-Man the chance to cure Cloak and Dagger of the loyalty to Mr. Negative. The criminal is able to inject Shen with the drug before escaping, but only a select few overhear Shen's confession, and most were already aware of his past, concluding that it doesn't matter so long as the man continues to do good. Although Mr. Negative flees the base where he was working with Cloak and Dagger, the now cured heroes vow to remain in Hong Kong to protect it from his future efforts. Powers and abilities. It initially appears that Martin Lee has no knowledge of his evil side. During New Ways to Die, Lee took Eddie Brock into a back room he calls his inner sanctuary, where he claims to play a game of Go Day by Day against an unknown opponent who he has never seen, claiming that he has learned that it's okay to enjoy the game. When he transforms into Mr. Negative, Lee's appearance resembles that of a photographic negative. He also speaks in a reverse-colored speech balloon, although this does nothing to the sound of his voice. Prior to his transformation, Martin Lee was a member of the Snakehead Gang, whose true name has not yet been revealed. Both the Martin Lee and Mr. Negative personas are the result of experimental drug tests done by magic chemist Simon Marshall, the same tests that powered Cloak and Dagger. However, unlike the two heroes, who were each given a power over light and dark, the gang member was given both the light and dark side. As such, Mr. Negative considers himself an embodiment of black and wickedness, and both of his personas view the balance of good and evil as a necessary part of the universe. The two halves, while fully aware of one another's existence, take no steps to interfere with one another. with the Martin Lee persona even taking such drastic steps as allowing his bad side to corrupt May Parker to keep it a secret. During an encounter in The Amazing Spider-Man 21, Mr. Negative displays a degree of superhuman strength high enough to send Spider-Man flying through 2 buildings with a single blow. Mr. Negative also demonstrates superhuman reflexes during his battle with the Hood, dodging bullets or cutting them in half with his sword. He also has the power to charge up knives and swords with black electrical energy, and he can corrupt people he touches in the same manner, bringing them under his control. A corrupted person's clothes change their colors to their photographic negatives, and all who are corrupted praise their new master with proclamations like, "Mr. Negative was never born, so he is ever living," or, "He is attached to nothing, thus he is one with all." It's shown his corruption is more effective the more good the affected person was before his conversion. White Dragon, a villain himself, gained vastly increased stamina and endurance, but was still easily dispatched. Conversely, Spider-Man, a hero in every respect, was corrupted into a spiteful and angry villain, despising every value he held dear, and no more above killing. Spider-Man is able to break the hold his malevolent side has over him when he is on the verge of killing Betty Brant, as he remembers the love he once had for her upon getting close. Mr. Negative's corrupting touch appears to be ineffective against beings with supernatural powers, as Hood is unaffected when Negative attempts to corrupt him. Mr. Negative claims that this is because the Hood's soul belongs to a being even darker than he is. It has since been revealed that while Negative can renew his influence on others, he cannot corrupt someone once they have broken free of his influence already, allowing Peter Parker to infiltrate his plan by using the fact that he had been corrupted by Negative as Spider-Man without his phone knowing his secret identity. Mr. Negative's alternate Martin Lee persona seems to have the power to cure others. In The Amazing Spider-Man 68, a simple touch from Lee completely cures Eddie Brock of his cancer, and combines the remnants of the Venom symbiote in his blood with his white blood cells, creating a new symbiote named Anti-Venom that possesses similar healing powers. Aside from this, homeless people who have stayed at Martin Lee's shelter have rapidly recovered from any illnesses or injuries they suffered from. It is possible that his healing touch is supposed to be the opposite of Mr. Negative's corrupting touch. It is revealed that Anti-Venom can be affected by Mr. Negative's energy because it negates his healing ability. Mr. Negative also has access to advanced technology and secret laboratories, in which he is able to give his subjects medical care far more advanced than that available to the general public. Inner demons. Mr. Negative is often accompanied by several henchmen, known as his inner demons, who wear dragon-style masks and use high-tech electrified versions of swords, knuckles, and various other oriental weaponry such as gun staffs and nunchakus. They are able to regenerate from even the most lethal wounds within a matter of seconds, as they've been shown almost immediately recovering from impalement, gunshots to the head, and even getting torn apart or decapitated. It has been implied that the inner demons can be killed under the right circumstances. At one point, Anti-Venom claims to have killed some of them, possibly by suffocation, which he later notes to be an effective tactic against them. Mr. Negative also orders the murder of 2 inner demons who have failed him. Thank you for watching. Brought to you by WikiVidi Documentaries. Please like and subscribe below. Please like and subscribe below.